morning everyone, and welcome back to the vlog. I'm over on the west coast of Scotland and I've just pulled over just really to take in some of this beautiful scenery, and it is a lovely day. It's a little bit overcast, a lot of cloud, but the sun keeps breaking through, and it's a crazy 18 degrees, which is so unusual for this part of the country. So anyway, I'm on my way to Arisaig to get onto the coast, get some beach shots, possibly up in the dunes, looking out to Arisaig and Rum. So hopefully we'll get some nice sunshine when we're over there later this afternoon. But it really is absolutely beautiful. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button and hit the bell notification. Leave me a comment below, and well, let's go see what we can find.
Camas Darrach is a sandy coastline that stretches between Arisaig and Malach, with views to the islands of Arisaig, Rum and Skye. I'm definitely more at home photographing trees and waterfalls than I am looking for compositions along the coast, but I think it's good to push yourself out of your comfort zone now and again.
So I made it down to the coast, and I'm just down at Camas Darrach, which is just near Arisaig, right on the west coast. And it's absolutely beautiful. It's a nice, still evening. The cloud cover's quite high, so when the light does drop, when the sun drops down, we should get some beautiful colours in the sky. And just while I'm waiting, what I'm doing is I'm sort of working my way around the rocks and capturing some of the sort of shapes, colours and textures in the rock. The rock's beautiful, it's kind of layered back, and there's some browns and some lovely golden colours and some greens with the little bits of moss and lichen on the rock. And then in between, there's some small pockets of sea thrift, which there's a bit of a breeze, so that's not so easy to photograph. So I'm just going to work my way around and just capture some really nice, small, interesting details just while I'm waiting for the light to come down. Just in the distance is Egg and Rum, sat on the horizon line with some small islands just scattered in front. So as you can probably tell, it's a lot later in the evening now. It's around about 7 o'clock and we're just starting to get that really lovely soft golden light. The wind's dropped and we're just getting the sort of gentle lapping of the water coming up and hoping that that sun is just going to come down a bit lower, drop below the skyline and give us some beautiful colour to the sky. I'm working my way around along the beach just to try and find some nice rock formations that I can include in my composition so that I've got just something there that perhaps captures some of that moving water, but also we can capture some of the beautiful light as it drops below the clouds. So I'll keep working my way around and see if we can find some nice compositions. So what am I looking for with my compositions? Well, I know I'm not looking for the postcard shot, and there's nothing wrong with a postcard shot. It can be beautiful, it can really sort of portray the area and the full scene, and there's definitely a place for it. But I'm looking for something a little bit more intimate, something that's got a little bit more texture, detail, something that doesn't really say, this is where I am, but just something that sums up the feeling of the coast, the water, the beautiful sand and the golden light that's coming now through late evening. So it's just a case of working away along the coastline and just looking for those shots. The tide's quite high now, so I'm losing some of the sort of rocks that are beautiful to capture with the water cascading over them. But the beach and the water coming along the shoreline is absolutely lovely, capturing the light. And as I said before, the sea's a beautiful colour. It really is. It's like being on a sort of tropical island over here, but without the people. So going to keep working along. The sun is still quite high. I mean, we're getting into now, it's about sort of 7:30 in the evening, and of course everybody's left, and it feels like a real deserted beach. So it's nice, got the place to ourselves, and well, we'll just keep working our way along and seeing what we can find. So these beautiful rocks just caught my eye as I was coming around the corner here. The tide's just come up to them and it's just lapping over the top, and the light is just capturing the sides of those rocks. I'm going to need a polarizer really just to cut back some of that reflection. But what I really like is the way that the water's just lapping over the top of them, and they sort of take off into the distance a little bit there, not too much, but so I'm thinking a long shutter speed to really soften that water out and to hold some of the light and to capture it cascading over the rock. So I've just come round to the other side of these rocks so that I can capture some of the beach behind. I was not really getting anywhere shooting the rock with just the sort of open sea. There was no real sort of background interest. So I've come right round and now I'm shooting back towards the actual beach itself. I'll show you on the back of the camera, although I have to say that because it's so bright, I don't know how it's going to look visually wise, but you can see that I've come right round and I've now got this lovely sweeping beautiful golden beach that sort of comes up behind my image, and you can see on the rocks there the way that the water's just lapping up over the top of them, giving them that really nice foreground interest. There's some beautiful green colours in there coming off of the seaweed, which is just capturing the light. So I've got a 6-stop neutral density filter on there, just to really sort of help me slow down the exposure because it is so bright. I'm not being able to get the exposure that I'm after. And I really want around about a maybe 2 or 3 second exposure to capture some of that water actually moving and coming up over the rock. And it will also help some of that light reflect as well. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to take several exposures. I'm going to have to take one exposure for my sand and my beach behind there on the background with the sky. I'm going to take one sort of fairly in between those two, and then I'm going to expose for the rocks as well because there's a lot of shadow, and I want to hold some of that detail. So probably around about 3 exposures, take it back into Photoshop and blend those together to give me a sort of final composite. But I don't want it to look too fake, too HDR, so be careful not to bring up too much light and too much detail in those shadow areas. But anyway, I'll take the shot and, well, here it is.
Although I took several different exposures for this image, thinking that I would take them back and blend them together in Photoshop later, I ended up by using the underexposed image and bringing back the detail in the shadow areas. The D850 has a good dynamic range and manages to keep that detail.
So coming along the beach, we've just come across this rock that is absolutely covered in sea thrift, and the light's low and just touching the tops of it. So I'm just working my way around and just finding some real nice small compositions. I'm using my 70 to 200mm lens so that I can get a real soft depth of field, really sort of soften out that background. So I'm shooting at around about f8, and just really, it needs to be a fairly quick exposure because the wind's just coming across the rocks there and you can just see them catching the breeze. So I'm trying to get around about 200th of a second exposure just so that I can capture them. I don't want too much movement in there because the detail in them is absolutely beautiful. And we've got some real deep pink colours, but also some really nice light colours as well, almost touching white on some of the leaves. Okay, so this will definitely be the last shot of the evening. You can just see in the background there, the sun is just dropping below the horizon. You can just see a small thin slice of it dropping there behind the cloud. I've actually, if I show you on the back of the camera what I'm looking at, I've got these beautiful islands that are scattered across just to give me some foreground interest. But it's been really tricky just trying to get into a position where there's not too much of it, because what's going to happen is that as you're looking on the back of the camera, but if I turn around to the right, you'll actually see that once we start getting too heavy into those islands, it really is just a black mass. So by coming around this way and shooting on a portrait orientation, you can see that I've just managed to really cut out some of those darker shapes that are there, because there's not going to be any detail in it. So obviously it's going to be a long exposure because because there isn't a lot of light left. So I'm shooting on around about probably about 5 or 6 seconds, aperture around f/16, and I'm really just waiting to see what that light does. It's possible that it drops below the horizon and then the sky lights up beautifully, or it's possible that it dropped behind the horizon and we get no light at all. So anyway, if it's any good, here's the shot. But thank you again for watching the vlog. I hope you've enjoyed it. There's been some interesting images along the route. We've had some sea thrift and we've had some nice water lapping on rocks, and it has been absolutely beautiful here. It's amazing as well how many people are still down on the beach, because a few fires going and a few people staying for the evening, and it's still pretty mild. So anyway, that's it for today. Thank you for watching and see you in the next vlog.
amazing how the light temperature changes throughout the evening at this time of the year. First, the golden hour really saturates the landscape in a warm golden glow, and then you get the blue hour that softens and cools the light, and then eventually you get those darker deep blues and mauves that really darken down the sea.